Hey everyone, Robyn Openshaw here. I have been known as the Green Smoothie Girl online for 18 years, but I want to talk to you today about the journey to start discovering cryptocurrency and arrive at forget about cryptocurrency, Bitcoin only. I want to talk to you about that journey because it's really important because those of us who were in what I call the second wave of people discovering Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, we weren't the cyberpunks, 16 years ago, 14, 12, 10 years ago. Not them. They were trying to hold their Bitcoin on paper wallets or devise their own way of holding their asset. They may have lost their money on Mt. Gox. Some people who were trying to invest in Bitcoin 10 years ago used a guy. Okay, that totally defeats the purpose of Bitcoin. Bitcoin is money where there is no third-party risk. It's trustless. In other words, I don't have to trust Wells Fargo or JP Morgan Chase or my local credit union. There's no third-party intermediary where we can exchange value. So I just want to explain to you how I got from 5.5 years ago, which is the sort of second wave who came in, starting a big, huge wave of retail investors, regular mom and pops, people like you and me who started buying into Bitcoin in March of 2020. So I was in that tranche. I started buying Bitcoin like 5 months before Michael Saylor did. I have in other videos talked about how small business owners who are people who look down the road and who understand a little bit about macroeconomics could see that the writing was on the wall and that basically your business would have to grow by more than 10% a year for you to even stay viable. So most small business owners, they really just don't know anything about the economy. They're just running their business. They know what they know. But people like Michael Saylor, also me in March of 2020, it was like hit the panic button. And so, as Michael Saylor says, the people who invest in Bitcoin are there in Bitcoin because they have a need to know. There's tens of thousands of zombie companies in the United States. The vast majority, the large majority of the stock exchanges are zombie companies. Basically, they can't afford to do anything beyond maybe service their debt. So some of these companies have started to become Bitcoin holding companies. Most famously, Michael Saylor did it first, and he's been buying most aggressively, and he's using other people's money. He just keeps borrowing and borrowing to buy more and more Bitcoin so that nobody can ever catch up to him. I think at this point it's pretty clear that no one's probably ever going to catch up to him. I think he has 600,000 Bitcoin. Okay, so how we all started is in 2020, we started looking at blockchain technology. Okay, this is like a public ledger. Then we started looking at all these altcoins, and there were like 10,000 of them in March of 2020 that were registered. I think for 69 bucks, you could register your cryptocurrency project working from your mom's basement. So when the barrier to entry is 69 bucks and maybe you know a little something about coding and you have an idea, you could have a cryptocurrency. So now there are, from the last I heard, there's something like 7 million registered cryptocurrencies. Well, I'm going to ask a really obvious question. Do you think we need 7 million different cryptocurrencies? Obviously, we don't. So this is feeling a lot like the dot-com big bubble and then burst. And then there was, a bunch of people who were holding even like legacy URLs, and maybe they've held on to them to this day. Like Michael Saylor owns hope.com. Like he was back then, like buying all these URLs because he could see that the world was going to go very, very internet before 99.9% of people saw it. But most of the companies who were starting that were just, well, I'm a .com. I put .com on the end of my company's name. Most of them, as you know, went under. We had a recession because of it. It was a bubble bursting. It's not the first bubble in history. I mean, we could go back through the history of bubbles. One of the more entertaining ones was the tulip mania bubble. I don't know when that was, 100 years ago or something. Okay, well, we're in one. And all these cryptocurrencies, there's going to be a bust. We're in a bubble. There's, 100,000 more cryptocurrencies than we could ever need. We probably will end up with a handful that truly disrupt an industry. After putting over 1,000 hours in, and pretty much everybody who's put over 1,000 hours in, to my awareness as I am out there spending 20 to 30 hours a week researching this for 5.5 years now. Pretty much everybody who spends 1,000 hours or more trying to understand this, people who are pretty high wattage, like, the over 140 IQ folks, they come to the conclusion Bitcoin only. It's not that we don't think that there's no cryptocurrencies that'll emerge as disrupting an industry and providing value. And as the crypto bros like to say, going to the moon, and they make tons of money. But really, all these cryptocurrencies have been, to date, highly speculative assets. And I sold all of mine last year. I said so in our mastermind. If you want to join our mastermind, there's a link down below how you get a third month, and then also use my personal coupon code Robyn, ROBYN, to get another $50 off. Come start learning with us, because this is the most disruptive force of our lifetimes. Bitcoin is being adopted faster than the internet was adopted. It's the fastest technological adoption in the history of technology. And there are some important reasons that you might have resistances. Somebody told you it was a Ponzi scheme. Somebody told you, oh, everybody who got in while the getting's good, they're already in, it's too late. There's all kinds of things that you might be thinking about Bitcoin, but you owe it to yourself to learn more, because I don't want you to be there 10 years later thinking, I remember that green smoothie girl told me I should be listening. She was telling me for years and I never did plug in. I never did start learning. Or maybe it wasn't me. Maybe it was someone else. Maybe I'm the third person, the third smart person who has told you you really should start learning about this Bitcoin. Okay, you really can't afford not to learn about this. So people who spend 1,000 hours studying this, they pretty much inevitably come to the conclusion to stop investing in the altcoins. And mostly not because there won't be a handful of winners that'll be your Amazon and Apple and Google and Costco 20 years from now, because there probably will be, but because we can't tell which horse to bet on because there's so many horses. I mean, can you imagine trying to pick a winning horse when there's 7 million horses out on the track? Okay, that's just not a good gamble. That's not a good way to invest, is picking one of 7 million. Okay, and you might say, well, most of the 7 million are just, somebody in their mom's basement who registered a crypto project. You're right. But even of the hundreds out there, the ones that you hear the most about, I don't care if it's Solana, Ethereum, we could just sit here and riff and think of the ones that you've seen and that are maybe 10 years old or 5 years old. Here's the problem in the startup climate, and this is in regular business, and we're just applying it to blockchain technologies or cryptocurrency projects. A lot of times, the first one comes in, bangs its head on the wall for years, and then somebody else sees all the problems that the first one has and steps in and does it better, solves all the problems of the first one, does it better, does it less expensively, has a better marketing budget, gets some big names behind it, for whatever reason, steps in. I mean, I'll give you an example that's outside of cryptocurrency, okay? Young Living, a guy named Gary Young, I think he had a naturopathic doctor degree or some such, spent 20 years building awareness about essential oils. Nobody had heard of such a thing. He got out there and was like, this is plant medicine. This is the essence of healing plants. And he created this demand for essential oils. And then like 7 people broke off from his company, including a bunch of executives and an executive assistant, and they started doTERRA. And they absolutely crushed Young Living. Okay, both businesses still around. But one of them was literally several years later, after learning from Young Living, including from Young Living's mistakes, went out and created a sexier, uh, much more appealing to a younger crowd business that did everything Young Living did that worked, but solved all the problems that Young Living created all along the way. So they were on the cover of Forbes magazine as a $2 billion company some years ago. And they did it fast because they'd already been working inside the first company. So that's what I'm saying is, betting on an AI company right now or betting on cryptocurrencies, the problem with it is we don't know which horse is going to win the race. It's really hard for us to see who has the best funding, who has the best marketing, who has the most stick-to-itiveness to really emerge and win in the end, and we all come to the conclusion that Bitcoin is being adopted so fast that it is the store of value. Okay, my computer's dying, so I'm gonna do another video more about this, but Bitcoin for the win. Join our mastermind and just join us every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern. Okay, see you there.